We will continue to work closely with our partners in the city and county of San Francisco, with our partners at UCSF. I'll remind people, it's not surprising in many respects that California is announcing the first case. This state is the birthplace, after all, of biotech, of life sciences. UCSF, one of the leading genomic sequencing institutions in the world, and we are blessed to have their partnership and have their expertise, and we have, as you know, perhaps the most robust, not perhaps, we do indeed have the most robust testing program and protocols in the nation, and now with over 59.6 million doses of vaccine administered, we can certainly lay claim to having done more in terms of vaccinations than any other state in this country. As a consequence of those nation-leading efforts, not only are we here to highlight the recognition of this case, and by the way, it is correct, unsurprisingly, I'm just going to reinforce what was stated publicly, that this individual is doing well, mild symptoms. The people that this individual came into contact have been tested, and we look forward to more information coming out as appropriate. And while it is true, as is often the case, we do know a little bit more about this individual. Privacy requirements dictate that we can't share everything we would like to share. It's always often asked, why not? Well, I think none of us necessarily want to be in that position, but there is broad strokes information, fully vaccinated, not boosted, within that 6-month window, more recent, relatively speaking, recent vaccinations, so the booster was not recommended in that respect. This individual has not been hospitalized. The individuals that this individual has come into contact with have not tested positive yet to our knowledge, and we are hopeful of full recovery and expect nothing less based upon what we've learned. Again, came into the state on the 22nd, mild symptoms on the 25th, tested on the 28th, 29th, came back positive. Within 24 hours, that positive test was sequenced by UCSF. What is our message here in the state of California? Well, let's continue to do what we've done. Not only are we leading the nation in terms of administered doses of vaccine, 59.6 million, as I noted, but 92.1%. 92.1% of all Californians 18 and over have received at least one dose. We have seen close to 6 million doses of the booster shots being administered, 5.8 million as of this morning. We're here to highlight the importance, the imperative of sorts, of getting a booster as you're eligible after that 6 months and 2 months after the J&J shot. We're mindful of the issue around equity, and that's why I'm here in the Central Valley to highlight that and reinforce the importance of that, but also to highlight and reinforce the importance of getting that first vaccine shot as well. Millions and millions, we know north of 60 million Americans have not received that vaccine, life-saving vaccine. Millions here in California still have not received it, and so we're here to highlight the importance, particularly as we enter into the holiday season. I know it's rote and cliche to say we double down, but let's double down on our vigilance and the seriousness of purpose to work through this winter and the likelihood of experience a surge. And while it's true we have the 6th lowest positivity rate in America, the 8th lowest case rate in America, we have seen some movement in terms of total cases, average cases, daily cases over the course of the last few weeks. We've gone from 1.9% positivity. Today we're at 3.4% positivity. It's less than half of the national average. But nonetheless, I'm mindful, particularly those of you in California are mindful this time last year is when we started to see a significant increase in cases. We today announced a little over 3,000 cases. This time last year, 9,000 cases. And so we are mindful of the experience we had last winter, mindful of the challenges that we confronted. And so this year, because of the good work that 40 million Californians have done in getting their vaccines and now promoting more and more boosters. The numbers are not as acute as last year, but again, we are just getting more information as it relates to the holidays, particularly Thanksgiving. In the next few days, we'll have a sense of what that Thanksgiving spread may have looked like. And I want to remind people, it's not just pharmaceutical interventions, meaning boosters. It's not just getting the vaccines. It's also using common sense. When you're in large indoor crowds and environments with a lot of strangers, people that have not been part of your cohort or group, to be mindful of the importance of non-pharmaceutical interventions like wearing face coverings, wearing masking, continuing to practice just common sense and hygiene. It's flu season as well, after all. And I want to encourage parents. I've got 4 young kids. I want to encourage parents out there to get those vaccines to their children. I'm in a school, as is the case all across America, where kids that go into schools like this are required to have 10 vaccinations. It's the same in conservative parts of the country, not just progressive parts of the country. You have to have vaccines in Florida and Texas. Here in the state of California, you have to have vaccines. There's something about the COVID vaccine where people have expressed this notion of freedom, but apparently that does not persist in terms of a mindset with all those other vaccines. We are of the opinion these vaccines are not only safe and effective, but they can save the lives of young people. And there's nothing more precious than our kids. And I say that again as a father of 4, the youngest 5, the oldest just turned 12. And so they have begun, 2 of them. The other 2 are scheduled to get their vaccines. And I encourage all of you that are parents to get your kids vaccinated as well. 609,000 doses of vaccine have been administered to those 5 to 11 in the state of California. And I hope people are mindful. Look at the pediatric rates in South Africa. Look at the hospitalization numbers in South Africa. Pediatric hospitalizations. It should be a sober reminder. This is not just about those 65 and over. It's not just about people with certain body mass index. Young folks are susceptible to this as well. I will say, for the purpose of confidentiality, the individual that we did sequence here in the state of California is between the age of 18 and 49. I know it's broad strokes, but again, out of respect for privacy, but important nonetheless to lay that out, I think, to give you a broad framework, at least an understanding of the age of this individual. So we are not surprised by this. This was predictable. This was predicted. And it, again, is not surprising the state of California because of its sequencing and because of its aggressive testing protocols, including, by the way, creation of our own state testing lab and the work we continue to do to lean in and not be shy in terms of being led by science, open argument, interested in evidence, and mindful that we all need to be humble in the face of these mutations and variants and this disease. But we are not, again, surprised to be here today, and just want everybody to know that we were coming here anyway to do what I would be doing today if we were responding by showing up here to this announcement, and that is to encourage Californians to get vaccinated, to get a booster, and to do what is required of us, and that's using our common sense through the holidays to protect ourselves and enjoy our loved ones at the same time, being safe around the holidays. So that's a long-winded update on where we are. With that, let me, because he's here, take advantage of his presence and now turn over the mic to Dr. Galley, who is also a pediatrician, also a father, and is here to promote boosters, promote vaccines, but also can fill in any potential details that I missed as it relates to this new sequenced variant out of the state of California. Doctor?
Thank you, Governor, and thank you to the Blue Ribbon School that we are in for all you do for students of our state of Merced County and this town of Winton. Terrific to be on a campus and seeing what California has done to help bring kids back and enjoying their education. To the public health leaders and the elected leaders that join us today, thank you for your ongoing work. Governor, in the spirit of doubling down, as you said, I'll double down on a few of the messages. The details you had, perfect. We have one individual, and I want to focus on the fact that we are proud to be able to identify in this state, because of those efforts to be well prepared around COVID, the lessons we learned over the past 20 plus months to be ready on all fronts. And California demonstrates that today, thanks to our partners at San Francisco Department of Public Health, at UCSF, and to all involved in helping California stay in front of the curve. This one individual, indeed, I want to highlight, fully vaccinated. And some people might say, well, is that of concern? Does that mean the vaccines aren't working? We have been talking for months about the fact that vaccinations do one really, really important thing: protect against severe disease, against hospitalization and death. And the evidence that an individual with Omicron, identified by sequencing, actually has mild symptoms, is improving, I think is a testimony to the importance of the vaccinations. We have a lot more to learn about Omicron. We have a lot more to learn about the effect and impact the vaccinations will have, whether it's more virulent, whether it affects kids more than prior strains, the Delta or others. So we still have a lot to learn, and that's doubling down on the message of vigilance. As we enter this period of gathering information, working with global partners, federal partners, local partners on understanding the impact, we ask Californians to do the things the governor said. Get vaccinated, get boosted if you're eligible now. Don't wait. There's a lot of talk about a variant-specific boost. That is being prepared. Thank God we have the ability with our pharmaceutical partners to develop rapidly additional therapeutics and vaccines, but we ask Californians who are eligible to get vaccinated and boosted to do that immediately. Stay home when you're sick. If you've been exposed or have symptoms, please get tested. Through many people's efforts, we have robust testing across the state. It is available, it is with immediate results, and you can know whether those symptoms are indeed COVID fairly rapidly. Protect yourself, protect those around you. And then really doubling down on the message of when you're indoor places with people you don't know, crowded gatherings, please wear your mask, consider it, make sure that mask fits well. It doesn't do any good on your chin, doesn't do any good when it's wide and open, so please work on getting a well-fitted mask. Work with public health if you are positive. Help identify those individuals who might be close contacts so that we can make sure that they're safe and those around them are safe as well. So as we enter this period of uncertainty, it is not a time to panic, of course. We haven't panicked in California in quite some time because we have done a lot to prepare, but we will continue to be vigilant. And I thank you, Governor, and many others who've helped us be in a place to be prepared, whether that's around having PPE and broad supply for our state, making sure we have testing, making sure our hospitals in the Central Valley in particular are well supported and staffed, because they, even though while we're in the Central Valley, just mentioned that the hospitalization levels in the Central Valley did not come down as much in other regions. They are still deeply impacted, not just from COVID, but from other illnesses as well. So we will continue to support the healthcare delivery system through partnerships, ensuring that supplies and staff and space are available so that if we need those services, that they're available for Californians. So I think just really important to emphasize that we will continue to monitor the status of the case that was identified in San Francisco, those close contacts, hoping and expecting that we will continue to see that individual recover, being able to additionally look across our state and track for other infections if they do emerge in our state. Emphasize again, this was in a traveler, this was in somebody who was in South Africa, so everything aligns that it's not unexpected that we actually do have a case here in California, and we do expect that over time we will have additional cases, and that's why we need to keep our guard up, do the things the governor mentioned, do the things I know others are going to mention. You're going to hear them time and time again. I know we're tired. I know people are looking forward to the holidays, but I think some simple tools that allow us to live and do the things that we're excited about in these next many weeks can still happen with our guard up. So with that, I know we have a lineup of folks. I'll happy to introduce Assemblymember Gray, a real privilege to be in your county, in your district, and focused here on the message of making sure kids get vaccinated, and the vaccine message is strong and alive here in Merced County.
Good afternoon. I'm Adam Gray, our state assembly member here in Merced County, and thank you both to Governor Newsom as well as Dr. Galley for being here to highlight the resources. And while the new variant and its emergence here in California will most likely dominate the headlines today, what is of equal, if not greater importance, is why we're here today, which is to highlight the resources available at this facility to the community to get that vaccine shot, to get that booster shot, which of course, as has previously been said, is the most important step you can take to protect you and your family. So I want to thank the governor for his continued focus on the Central Valley, making sure that we have the resources that every other part of the state has and that we need to protect our communities and our families. As some of you may remember, his last visit here was in fact to announce the funding for the infrastructure to establish a medical school here in the Central Valley, which is not going to address our near-term problems, but will in fact do a great deal to address our long-term problems of not having enough nurses, physicians, and other healthcare professionals to provide adequate care to the folks that live here in the great San Joaquin Valley. So with that, Governor, you have our gratitude again for these investments and making sure that we have those resources. And I'd like to introduce our superintendent of county schools, who's just done a tremendous job of working with our local districts and making sure they have the resources and the opportunity to get the vaccination clinics up, to work with the various school boards and superintendents running those districts, Dr. Steve Tejan.
Thank you, Assemblymember Gray. It's a pleasure to be here. I'd like to, first of all, welcome the governor to beautiful Merced County, and of course, I'd like to thank our hosts, Winton School District, Superintendent Randy Heller, Principal Ka Vang, and the staff here that has done such a wonderful job to prepare for this visit. The key here today, of course, is that there is a clinic being offered to 5 through 11-year-olds. It's the first school-based clinic in our county. It's the first clinic that I'm aware of in the San Joaquin Valley. And so we're excited to be here today to reinforce the message of how important vaccination is for students in not only in Merced County, but across the state. We want to just say one or two things about the work that we've done over the past 20 months among the schools. Schools have been on the front lines for 20 months. They've worked hard to make sure kids are back for in-person instruction. We know that our children need a caring, well-prepared teacher to make sure that they can achieve what they want and need to achieve in life and be able to be part of that world market of ideas and labor here in California that leads the world. And we know that happens best when kids are in school with a caring, devoted, prepared teacher. And so please get your children vaccinated and keep them in school. We've had a great partnership over the past 20 months with our local health department, led by Dr. Salvador Sandoval and Chief Dr. Rebecca Nananjo Kemp and Kristen Sullivan, the epidemiologist. It's been a partnership that's allowed us to return to school, return to instruction last year in October. We're one of the counties that did return early, and because of that, we had a 98% return rate this past August when we reopened schools fully. I want to thank again Governor Newsom and Assemblymember Gray for supporting us financially over the past year. We can't do this without the additional support, financial support you've provided. We want to thank you for that and look forward to a strong recovery in the future. And with that, I'd like to turn the podium over to Dr. Sandoval. Thank you. Sorry, Dr. Nananjo Kemp.
Good morning. Thank you, Dr. Tejan, and everybody here. I want to express extreme gratitude for having the governor and his administration in our little county of Merced. I call it the little engine that could. We've had a lot of experiences, a lot of loss, but hopefully we'll start to see an upward trajectory as we move forward, and really appreciate your words. I'd also like to say on behalf of Supervisor Lloyd Pereira, whose district Winton sits in, he wanted to express his gratitude personally, but he could not be here. He apologizes in advance for his absence, for keeping your promise to prioritize the promises that you made to the Central Valley and keeping us level as much as possible with the remainder of the state. So thank you, Dr. Galley, and thank your administration and the State Health Department. This last winter, over the past 2 months, during last year's holiday season, Merced County experienced a loss of 200 additional lives due to COVID alone. The greatest risk to a child is the loss of a caregiver or a family member. And here we have all this opportunity through vaccination, through testing, through non-pharmaceutical interventions such as masking. And unfortunately, here in Merced County, we remain at 47% vaccination rate. You all heard the governor earlier that in the state of California, we're hovering around 91% of all adults who are eligible to be vaccinated have received at least 1 dose. And that is a number that we'd like to see emulated and mimicked here in Merced County. It's going to require everyone. We have a responsibility as adults, especially when it comes to looking and overseeing and protecting our future generations. Because of that 33% increase in the number of deaths because of COVID, one of the things that Merced County has placed an emphasis on this holiday season is making sure that we keep our holiday tables full. And I can say, for those of you who know me personally, I've experienced a loss, and I cannot tell you the heartbreak and the just, for all those people who say they don't want a vaccine, they need to remember those on the other side who have to deal with their loss. And it has just been a horrible, my condolences go out to all who've lost, because I know exactly personally how it feels and how heavy that is, having to tell parents of an adult child that their child is gone. You know, we want to keep this from having to impact all these little kids, these bright futures, this potential, this contribution. We want to have their potential lived out to the fullest, and that requires us to do our part as the adults of this community. So Merced County has launched a media campaign, which many of you will hear about over the next upcoming months. But again, the message is clear. We want people to remain safe throughout the holiday season. When Dr. Sandoval comes up here, he'll comment on some of the other variables that we've included in that vaccination campaign. I want to take just a brief moment to acknowledge also the local efforts that have taken place here. We would not be even where we are with our 47% indentation to all our residents had it not been for our providers, for our superintendents, our educational leaders, for you as community residents, the everyday ordinary citizen doing their part and saying, hey, I'm here, let me go ahead and get vaccinated. To echo some of the sentiments that were already stated before, we have a long way to go. We keep dealing with these different variants. In March 2021, the World Health Organization designated that they were going to use the Greek alphabet, and now we're on Omicron. And so there have been several generations, iterations of this disease that it's now our responsibility, especially because we live in this great nation. And as somebody whose parents are from Africa and speak to my African relatives almost daily, they wish they were in this situation. So it's our responsibility to capitalize and take advantage of it. I want to say thank you. I hope all of you have a very safe holiday season. And I encourage you not only to do your part, but also to spread the message, because we can get Merced County to where it needs to be, stay where it needs to be, and continue to allow it to be great. And again, I just want to sincerely thank Governor Gavin Newsom for being here. I would like at this point to turn it over to our Public Health Officer, Dr. Salvador Sandoval, who's going to come up here and offer a few words. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon. I also want to thank the governor's office and the local school, Sparks. I enjoyed really seeing these young, lively children, and keeping them healthy and safe is going to be very important in this holiday season. As Dr. Nanjonjo Kemp mentioned, we're launching a campaign in Merced County. There was a recent op-ed in the Merced County Times specifying some of the things that have been mentioned, like, for example, the need for using masks in public spaces, for example, when doing shopping and when around people that you're not part of the usual circle. In addition, the testing is very important because we've partnered with the schools and then also with Duke University, for example, to get home testing so that students can test when they come back from the holidays, and also test again at 3 to 5 days, and then when guests are coming over that they're not too familiar with. The last component is we wanted to let people know about the monoclonal antibody, which is a measure that can be used for people that become ill with COVID. There's talk of a pill form of antiviral, but at this point, with the delays in getting any such treatment, we are focusing on the monoclonal antibody. We've identified sites in the county so that we can target the higher risk individuals for treatment. I wanted to just say a few words on the children. I think it's very appropriate. We're here at an elementary school. Even though some parents feel that that the vaccine, that the disease is not as dangerous with children, we want you to know it's the 10th leading cause of death in the country for children, and more children have died of COVID than have died of influenza and other diseases for which there are vaccines. We've been able to keep the schools open. I think the fact that the governor's campaign has really helped to keep the schools open in comparison to what's happened nationally. And I think that's important for the mental health of our children, for their education, and also for their physical well-being. Puedo dar unas palabras en español, pero por el tiempo, pues mejor hacemos esa entrevista separado. Muchas gracias. Thank you very much.
And just on that point, Doctor, thank you for highlighting. California has about 12% of the nation's students, but less than 1% of the schools that have shut down in this school session. And I think that's important to highlight because of our commitment to health and safety. We're keeping our kids safely and healthily back in person instruction. States that haven't followed masking, haven't followed the science, have actually seen higher rates of schools shutting down. And so if we want to keep our kids in school, it's a top priority for all of us. The social and emotional benefits of that are self-evident, particularly parents, but more broadly understood now in a larger community. We have got to continue our vigilance and maintain our health leading efforts. And so I want to just acknowledge your work on that, this higher school district here. Thank you for your partnership. Thank you for being a working partner, not a sparring partner. That's not always expressed across this nation, not even for that matter across this state. And I want to remind folks that you matter and we care. And those disparities persist all across the United States. They continue to persist here in the state of California as it relates to testing, vaccination. Those health inequities need to be closed. We've been very forthright about that. We've been very transparent about that. And that's why I keep coming back. To make a point, we have to do more. We have to do better. And we're here to highlight that we still have disparities, particularly in the Latino community as it relates to boosters and vaccines. More broadly, no other community has been more impacted than the Latino community by this pandemic. And that's not just unique to California, that exists all across this country. And so I'm here in that spirit, again, of trying to reconcile that and continue to provide resources and a more resourceful mindset as ways we can close those gaps. We have a health equity index that we put forth, one of the first in the nation. We monitor that on a daily basis. We are seeing gaps beginning to close, but we have more work to do. And so I just want to highlight briefly, we have 700 partnerships with community-based organizations in this state to promote our efforts on booster shots. 142 of them are here in the Central Valley. We have also partnered with 37 ethnic media outlets here in the Central Valley as well to address these disparities. The boosters, we have seen, not surprisingly, we've seen booster rates vary by county profoundly. Colusa County is about 15% of our reported boosters. Marin, as high as 40%, 39.9% to be exact. Merced, so yesterday was 19.4. Doing a little bit better than Colusa, but not as well as counties like Marin. So we have work to do. That's why we're here, to highlight that, to reinforce the importance of these boosters. At the end of the day, we may look back. I'll leave the expertise to the doctor, but this is a 3-dose. I mean, we talk about boosters as if they're somewhat additive. I think it's becoming increasingly clear of this notion of waning immunity and the importance of getting that third shot. And by the way, it's very familiar to me as a parent. Our kids have to go through 3-shot regimes. And so we're learning, all of us, in real time. But one thing lacks any real controversy for those that are of right mind, sound, and actually objective, that vaccines are a pathway out of this pandemic. And we have the capacity, because of the abundance of vaccines, to get this pandemic in the rearview mirror. But again, we are here on this day with the announcement that was made from UCSF in the state of California, mindful that the longer we live with this virus, the more mutations, the more variants we will have to face. And that's why we have to face down the skepticism, face down the misinformation, face down the disinformation around the safety and efficacy of these vaccines. And that's why we're here proudly to see 5 to 11-year-olds with this pop-up mobile site here at this elementary school, to see those doses administered, giving not only those kids a little breathing room in terms of their own experience and their own expressions and their own confidence in their own health, but their parents in particular, that in the holiday season can, well, breathe with a little bit more confidence that their children, the most precious things in their lives, are going to have that level of protection because of these vaccines. So again, we're grateful to the entire community. We're grateful to leadership assembled here today. Of course, we're here mindful that you may have a few questions as well.
Alrighty. Good afternoon, Governor. Karen Alvarez with KC24. My first question, I have a couple. With the first confirmed case of the Omicron variant here in California, what's the status of the future of schools and businesses? Could we be seeing a shutdown?
Look, I'm confident if we continue to do what we've done, which is continue to be in the top 10 in terms of the lowest case rates and among the highest vaccination rates, and among the lowest positivity rates, that won't be an issue. It's really important to folks to understand we have agency in this pandemic. We're not bystanders in this pandemic. It's our decisions that will determine our fate and future, not conditions. And so I said this a moment ago, I'll repeat it again now. With a new variant comes uncertainty because there's a lack of information. We don't know what we don't know. So people are being vigilant. Some comments that have been made, let's be candid. You saw the Moderna CEO, the markets internationally collapsed out of concern of some of the statements they made. I'll say this with respect, I don't look to the CEOs of Big Pharma for always the most objective advice. I look to doctors, I look to public health officials to objective advice. And they're saying almost universally, and we were constant contact. Dr. Galley on the phone this morning, not surprisingly, with CDC director, and communicating in real time with our partners, private sector partners, not just public sector partners, that there's more panic than information around this new variant. And that just means we have to keep our mind open, but maintain our vigilance. And that's why we're here. And just doubling down on what we're doing is the most important message I think we can communicate, so we can avoid any shutdowns. We can avoid shutting down our schools or businesses. None of us want to see that happen. I certainly don't want to see that happen. And I see no indication at this moment whatsoever that that's in our immediate future, as long as we continue our nation-leading efforts.
Question. It's been a while since COVID shots have been out. What do you have to say to people who haven't even received their first shot?
I just encourage them. Look at the evidence. 59.6 million doses have been administered. People are thriving with these vaccines. Businesses are reopened, the economy, where California is a tentpole of the American job recovery. No other state has created more jobs in the last 9-10 months than the state of California. And not only that, this is important, and this is important for all those folks on some of these networks that seemingly are unaware and unfamiliar or just unwilling to share objective truths. California's case rate per capita is exponentially better than some of those states that tend to, get highlighted as, models of efficacy and efficiency as it relates to addressing this pandemic. I mean, I'll just give you one example. Florida has a death rate per capita. It's 53% higher than the state of California. And our economy outperformed during the depths of the pandemic the state of Florida, because we leaned into science. We leaned into public health. Our economy outperforms, and the health of our citizens are protected, people's lives protected as a consequence of these efforts. And so I say that just to reinforce the importance, the imperative in many respects, of those that are on the fence to meet with their pediatricians, meet with their doctors, meet with their pharmacists, meet with folks that are in their family unit in particular that have gotten the vaccines, and consider doing the same, particularly as you enter into this holiday season with the uncertainty of new variants. And this is not the only variant we're monitoring, quite the contrary. There are dozens we had 2 West Coast variants at the beginning of this pandemic. We had a New York variant, many other variants that likely will follow even this one. And the way out of this is to get vaccinated.
And my last question, so much news coming today. I have to ask, today the Supreme Court heard oral arguments in a case that has the potential to overturn Roe versus Wade. What's your take on the abortion case? Are we seeing, could abortion care be in crisis?
Not in California, quite the contrary. We believe in reproductive rights. We believe in our responsibility to be there for women, particularly here in the state of California that's long championed reproductive rights. And California is a place of refuge, not only for 40 million Californians, but also for women and girls all across this country, and will remain so proudly. And I listened to a portion of the oral arguments. I'm as concerned as anybody. I'm a father of 2 daughters, and I'm very concerned about the direction of this court. I'm very concerned about the direction of this country. Yesterday we have a radical judge, and I say this as a son of a judge, so I say that with some consideration. But this Judge Benitez, who seemingly thinks weapons of war are appropriate, and people have the right to weapons of war, that somehow those are protected in the Constitution, and he threw out our ban on large capacity magazine clips. You may have read, and I hope you did, that on Black Friday, a father bought a 9mm pistol, semi-automatic pistol, with allegedly 3 large capacity magazine clips, 15 bullets each. And tragically, his kid used them now to kill 4 of his classmates. 4th died this morning. 7 others wounded. I mean, what the hell is that? I mean, people claiming pro-life? And what do we hear from those folks today? Sitting there waxing on about pro-life, and they're anti-vaccine, anti-mask wearing, waxing on about pro-life, and they say nothing about these weapons of war. There's no country on planet Earth that experiences what we experience. It's a disgrace. The hypocrisy is a disgrace. Florida's death rate's 53% higher than the state of California. And it's celebrated as if that's some, moniker of freedom. How about the freedom from, not just the freedom to? The freedom from the fear and anxiety of sending your kid to a school like this without worrying about weapons of war being promoted by judges and being promoted by politicians. This misinformation and disinformation around vaccines is a disgrace. It's a national emergency. We need to call it out. We all need to be held to a higher level of accountability. None of us have gotten everything right in this pandemic. Again, humility is the word of this pandemic. But this knowing dis and misinformation has got to stop. And please, with respect to those out there promoting weapons of war in our street, stop. And those that wish to turn around precedent over 50 years on a woman's right to choose for herself, her fate and future, that to me also needs to be protected. And so I am hopeful they'll reject the arguments made by the representative of Missouri. But Californians, to rest assured, we are standing tall and strong in support of women's reproductive rights. Forgive me, I got 4 kids. And what happened in that school sickens me, because just another day, we're moving on to the next damn news story. Until there's the next one, and then we'll move on to that, and we'll hear damn thoughts and prayers. And these are the same people that we're celebrating this case today, talking about life. Please. Sorry.
Good afternoon. I'm Linda with ABC 30. As we've learned this morning, the first case of the Omicron variant in the U.S. has been identified here in California. So do we know how efficient the available vaccines are in protecting against the new variant?
We're learning in real time. And anyone who suggests they have that answer, Dr. Galley, doesn't. They're misleading you. So again, Less information, more concern about this new variant. In real time, we're all learning more. The information sharing is extraordinary. We've been at this almost 2 years. There's never been a level of this kind of engagement and communication internationally as well. And I'm really proud of UCSF and California for their nation-leading efforts on genomic sequencing and our continued vigilance as it relates to testing and making sure those partnerships are formed so we can share that information, answer that question in real time.
Okay. And the San Joaquin Valley has one of the lowest vaccination rates in the state and high COVID hospitalization rates. As you mentioned, with more holiday gatherings coming up, what is your message for people who are vaccine hesitant or vaccine resistant?
Look, I respect people that are hesitant. I don't respect people that are misleading and lying to people. And let me just say that I had a booster shot. People knowingly were lying out there. Mainstream media started picking up the lies. We all have to be held to some level of accountability. It's just remarkable what is said by otherwise reasonably thoughtful people, meaning people that are paid a lot of money to come across as reasonable and thoughtful, at least. So I know where that hesitancy comes from, because if that's all you're reading, I've got a family member, he sends me stuff all the time, the Daily Signal, this, I get why this person lives on the edge. It's jaw-dropping, but I have deep empathy because the lies that he reads every single day, not just about the vaccine, but across the board, the jaw-dropping objective lies. So if that's what you're being fed in the filter bubble that we live in, certainly online, but increasingly in person, analog, not just digital experience, then I understand that. And so I'm sensitive to that and I'm empathetic to that. And that's why we have to work against that, but with love, with love and understanding. And that's why I just think there's no substitute. It's not going to be me that convinces anybody of these things. It's going to be a family member, a loved one. It's going to be someone you truly trust and you revere and admire. And that comes in many shapes and forms. And that's why we have PSAs and nail salons, at laundromats. We're trying to truly, when we talk about meeting people where they are, we're trying to go where people are, where they're having conversations. You may have someone that, and that you enjoy spending time with on Sunday mornings at the laundromat, that, you get a lot of your information. Well, I want that the conversation to be sparked there, not online or, respectfully on One American News. I mean, there's a source. Forgive me. I think I've gotten into a bad space here. If I were a member of my staff, I'd cut the cord here, but I'm gonna risk it.
Thankfully not.
No, thanks.
Hi, Governor. I'm Rich Rodriguez from Fox 26 News in Fresno. I want to talk about crime, specifically shoplifting. I did a story last week. I talked to a store owner. He's been hit by the same guy 4 times in 1 week. He says the laws have no teeth, and that's why thieves aren't afraid to go into stores.
Well, I
Is
don't know.
it time to revisit Prop 47?
Well, hold on. There's laws against shoplifting. So the laws, I don't know what, that individual should be arrested. If they've been identified the first time, they should have been arrested the second, third, fourth time. So
Do you think that is a deterrent? Do you think that scares people?
to be arrested, I certainly.
But they don't
Find
even
it to
spend time in jail, Governor.
Well, they could prosecute them, arrest them. Let me challenge the notion. Since Prop 47, crime dropped significantly. Shoplifting dropped significantly. Property crimes dropped significantly. 2015, 16, 17, 18, 19. We have seen since realignment and Prop 47, property crimes decline. It seems to me that there's deterrence when people are arrested for breaking the law and are prosecuted. So we need arrests and we need prosecutions. We need people held to account. No one condones that behavior, quite the contrary. Prop 47 seems rather insignificant in relationship to what's been happening with these organized crime units because it's well beyond the $950 limit.
But
It's
that's-
millions
that's
and
the
millions
point.
of dollars.
It's $950, and they know they'll take a look at the items and they'll say, you know what? This is only $400. No one's even going to stop me. I have a son who works at Target. He says, Dad, We don't bother.
Well, you should. You can prosecute that as misdemeanors. You can stack the misdemeanors as felonies. You can move forward and hold people account. I think there's this victimization thing here. I mean, crime dropped in 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Was that because of 47?
You're the one with the stats, sir.
Well, my point being, I think it requires more of a deep analysis. I think we're quick to judge because we have overriding concerns and opposition over some of the reforms that we point to. But it still was $400 prior to that. It's $950. I'm concerned about this. That's why we put together a retail theft task force. I'm concerned about it. That's why we did that last year. That's why we put millions of dollars with the CHP to do more task force and intervention. We've announced many of those partnerships up and down the state. I noted, you noted last Monday, we announced we're putting substantially more money into next year's budget around this issue. I don't condone it. I don't celebrate it. I don't support it. If people are breaking in, people stealing your property, they need to be arrested. Police need to arrest them. Prosecutors need to prosecute them. Judges need to hold people accountable for breaking the law. These organized crime waves, millions of dollars of materials have been taken. That has nothing to do with Prop 47 at $950 because it well exceeds that consideration. Prop 47 has been conveniently used as, from my humble perspective, as an excuse for things that don't necessarily have to be, meaning people can arrest, they can hold people accountable, and they should. And that's what I'm encouraging people to do. In addition to that, the state is doing an unprecedented amount to support cities and counties to help in the investigation, data sharing, regionalizing support, particularly around organized interest. And that was a bill we not only announced last July, but it's money we put in the budget. And you'll see in the budget that I submit in the next few weeks that we're going to significantly increase our efforts to go after these retail rings and to go after shoplifters. I have businesses I have been broken into. I know intimately what your son is expressing. And these are not victimless crimes. And I have no empathy for these criminal elements. I just don't.
Good afternoon. It's Thaddeus Miller, Fresno Bee, the Merced Sun Star. I've been told I'm the last question. So the rates in the valley, not only the booster, just vaccinations in general are stubbornly low. You said a moment ago, you're not going to convince anybody yourself necessarily. Then what is it going to take?
It's just continuing to be more creative, iterative, to do what we just announced a few weeks ago, and that's the 142 partnerships we have here in the Valley, the 37 ethnic media partnerships that we have announced, to continue to, when we say meet people where they are, quite literally go door knocking. We do phone banking. We have been doing pop-up clinics, pop-up sites, farm workers, doing the site here. Schools, 3,100 schools have sites like this school. We have 800 more that we're rolling out over the next few weeks. Working with pediatricians. Pharmacies have played a critical role in this space. Our PSAs have become more sophisticated, more nuanced, more targeted. I mentioned nail salons and laundromats for a purpose because we literally have just done an aggressive effort in that space. And that's part of this effort to do more and do better. And we're starting to see some progress. We're starting to see the gap begin to close. Not dissimilar to the challenges we had with testing originally, and then broader vaccination efforts now with boosters, learning similar strategies. Learned a lot from our census gathering efforts and how we have the right messengers in the community that speak the language, not just 2 or 3 languages, but dozens of languages and dialects. We're knocking on doors in public housing. We are literally walking the streets in some cases to encourage people and provide information. We've had partnerships, CBOs, literally doing just that. Not just fairs, not just destination sites, but trying to get out. And so that's all part of the effort. And finally, we have a team at, I think it's Department of Public Health or HSS, that's literally going after the misinformation and disinformation and pushing back aggressively against that in real time, going online literally trying to battle against that knowing disinformation. So those are all efforts, and we'll keep at it. And again, this state's made great progress, and I'm really proud of that, and I'm proud of the incredible work the local leaders have done in this space as well. And let me close again on this retail theft. Don't think for a second, I'm not defending the status quo. Quite the contrary. It's unacceptable. Period, full stop. It's been unacceptable. As a former mayor with a police department, as a mayor that was accountable at, I want to see local efforts. I want to see them stepped up. I want to see investigations. I want to see arrests. You've got some folks not even arresting. Arrest. But I also want to see prosecution. And you have the ability, look at the laws, you have the ability to stack repeat offenders and to move to prosecute. You do. Whether or not you choose to do that is an interesting part of the conversation. Some don't. I think 47's interesting in this respect that it didn't seem to be the focus of everybody's coverage for the last 6 years. To the degree now it is. Even though we're seeing shoplifting in states that don't have anything like 47 increase in property crimes, there's something else happening here as well. And I think any exploration on this subject must fully explore the why and not just fall prey to what I see often in politics, I've done this a long time, scapegoating initiatives or scapegoating a change in the law and saying, well, that's simply it. I think it's more complex, long-windedly, than that. That said, the status quo is unacceptable. With that, I want to thank you all for this animated conversation. And I appreciate everybody being here, and thank you all for what you're doing outside, and look forward to walking with you and see all that right now. Take care.